You're talking, mid-sentence, nothing unusual. And then without asking you, your body cuts you off. Hic! You didn't do that, something in your chest did. You can't start it, you can't stop it, and while it lasts, you are not the one in charge of you. A grown adult, quietly overruled by their own ribcage. We call it a glitch, a hiccup, a small thing that went slightly wrong. It didn't. That stupid little spasm is one of the oldest, best preserved things your body still knows how to do. It's older than every word you've ever spoken. Older than your species. Older than the first creature that ever crawled out of the water onto dry land. Because that is exactly where it comes from. A hiccup is a ghost. The ghost of a fish. Still moving right now inside your chest. And the reason evolution let you keep it for 370 million years is stranger than almost anything else your body does. So let's actually answer this. Why do you hiccup? Not the useless version your doctor gives you, the real one. Because here's the problem with a hiccup. It does nothing. It doesn't help you digest food. It doesn't clear your throat. It doesn't warn you about anything. Sneezing protects you. Coughing protects you. Even a yawn does something. A hiccup just interrupts you and leaves. So if it's useless, evolution should have deleted it 100 million years ago. It didn't. It kept it. In you, in every baby, in almost every mammal alive. And things that survive that long usually survive for a reason. The reason isn't in your lungs. It's in your history. Start with what a hiccup actually is, physically. Just under your lungs sits a dome of muscle called the diaphragm. It's the muscle you breathe with. It's pulling down right now, filling your lungs, and you never once told it to. A hiccup begins when that muscle suddenly jerks, sharp, hard, out of nowhere. Your lungs yank in a fast gulp of air you never asked for. And then, about 35 thousandths of a second later, a flap at the top of your windpipe slams shut on top of it. That slam has a name. It's the sound, hic. Air rushing in, a trap door snapping shut to stop it. That's the whole event. Now look at what your brain just did there. It ran that entire sequence without asking you, and it locked you out of stopping it. Same as goosebumps rising on your arm. Same as your leg kicking you awake as you fall asleep. This is a reflex. And a reflex is just a program your body kept because once it mattered. So when did this reflex matter? What was it for? To find that, you have to go back further than you have ever been asked to imagine. Not to cavemen, not to the first apes. 370 million years. To water. Picture a tadpole. You've seen one. A little body, a tail, living underwater. A tadpole breathes with gills. And breathing with gills is not simple. It has to gulp a mouthful of water, push that water back across its gills to pull the oxygen out, and then close a flap so the water doesn't flood its lungs. Gulp the water in, push it across, snap the flap shut. Read that one more time. A sharp gulp, then a flap slamming shut to guard the airway. You already know that rhythm? Your chest just did it. In 2003, a physiologist named Christian Strauss put this side by side. He compared the exact nerves and muscles that fire during a human hiccup to the ones a tadpole uses to breathe. They were the same pattern, same wiring, same motion, the same ancient breathing program still running in a body that hasn't had a gill in over 300 million years. And if that sounds like a coincidence, the next part is where it stops being one. A hiccup doesn't behave like anything a human lung should. When the carbon dioxide in your blood goes down, hiccups get worse. When it goes up, they fade. Your lungs don't work like that, but a gill does. That is exactly how water breathing is controlled. There's even a drug, baclofen, that can switch hiccups off. And it switches off the same water breathing reflex in amphibians. Your hiccup isn't a lung malfunctioning, it's a gill, still firing for water that isn't there anymore. So how did a fish reflex end up in your chest? Something had to carry it out of the water. And we know roughly what that something looked like. About 375 million years ago, there was a creature we now call Tiktaalik. It was found in the Arctic in rock that was once a shallow riverbed by a team led by a scientist named Neil Shubin. Tiktaalik was a fish, mostly. It had scales and gills and lived in water. But it also had something new. flat, strong fins with bones inside them that bent like a wrist. It could prop itself up. It could push its head out of the water and breathe air. It was a fish learning to do push-ups at the edge of the world. Creatures like this crawled out of the shallows and never fully went back. Their fins became legs. Their gulping, water-clearing reflex came along for free. Every amphibian, every reptile, every mammal, every person is descended from an animal that made that move. You are the great, unthinkably great-grandchild of a fish that decided to breathe air. And it packed light, it brought its skeleton, its spine, its jaws. And tucked deep in the wiring, it brought the hiccup. Here's the fingerprint it left behind. The proof is still inside you. Your diaphragm, the muscle that hiccups, is controlled by a nerve called the phrenic nerve. You'd expect that nerve to be short. The diaphragm sits low in your body, so the wire should run straight to it. It doesn't. The phrenic nerve starts up in your neck, near the top of your spine. And then it travels all the way down, past your heart, to reach the diaphragm far below. It's a long, absurd, looping detour. If you were designing a body from scratch, you would never do this. But evolution wasn't designing from scratch. It was renovating a fish. In our fish ancestors, the muscles that became the diaphragm sat up near the gills, in the neck. As the body changed and the diaphragm slid down into the chest, it dragged its nerve along behind it. The wire never got rerouted, it just stretched. So the next time you hiccup, that spasm is being ordered by a nerve still running the route it ran in a fish. Neil Shubin, the same man who dug up Tiktaalik, calls this one of the clearest leftovers of our life in water. You are not just descended from a fish, you are still quietly wired like one. Which brings us back to the question that should still be bothering you. Evolution deletes what you don't use. So why keep a dead fish reflex for 370 million years? Because somewhere along the way, it got a second job. The circuit that fires a hiccup, that sharp gulp and snap, turned out to be perfect for one of the most important things a mammal ever does. Feeding as a newborn. When a baby drinks milk, it has to pull the milk in and keep it out of its lungs at the same time. Gulp, and snap the airway shut. The exact same move as a hiccup, the exact same move as a gill. So the old program was never deleted, it was quietly promoted. And that's why hiccups show up earliest, in the smallest, most unfinished humans there are. A baby hiccups in the womb, curled in fluid, before it has taken a single breath of air. Ultrasounds catch it constantly. A tiny body hiccuping with lungs that have never once been used. Some scientists think those hiccups are rehearsal, teaching the breathing muscles to fire before they're ever needed. So before you could think, before you could breathe, before you were even finished, you were already running the oldest program in your body. And here is how you know for certain that this is inherited and not just some human quirk. You are not the only one who does it. Cats hiccup, dogs hiccup, puppies and kittens hiccup constantly, especially as babies. Rats hiccup, horses do a version of it, nearly every mammal carries the same reflex. It even tracks with how we're related. The animals that share it are the animals that share our ancestor. This isn't a bug that happened to each of us separately. It's a single, ancient inheritance, handed down the whole mammal family tree from the same creature that crawled out of the water. When your dog hiccups in its sleep and its leg twitches, you're not watching a cute little accident. You're watching the same 370 million-year-old reflex you have, firing in a cousin. The whole family kept it, and nobody in the family can turn it off. Which is the part everyone actually wants to know? How do you make it stop? You already know the folk cures. Hold your breath, drink water upside down, swallow a spoon of sugar, get someone to scare you. And sometimes they work, but not for the reason people think. Remember what a hiccup responds to. Carbon dioxide. When you hold your breath, carbon dioxide builds up in your blood, and that rising level quiets the reflex. The gill logic, used against itself. The other cures do something different. They hit a nerve. A big nerve called the vagus runs from your gut up to your brain, and you can jolt it. A spoon of sugar, a splash of cold water, a sudden fright. That jolt basically interrupts the loop, like smacking a stuck machine. But notice something, none of it is reliable. There is no button, no cure that works every time for everyone. Because you are not fixing a modern problem. You are trying to argue with a reflex older than your ability to argue. It doesn't listen to you. It never did. It runs on a circuit that was set and locked long before your species had a single thought in its head. And once in a very long while, that circuit gets stuck and does not come back. This is the part I saved for the end. Because a reflex with no off switch has a worst case, and a man lived it. His name was Charles Osborne, an American farmer. In 1922, by one account, he was hoisting a hog to slaughter when he fell and hit the ground hard. Something deep in his brain, right around where this ancient reflex is wired, was knocked loose. And Charles Osborne started to hiccup. He did not stop for 68 years. Every waking hour, through his sleep, through 2 marriages, through decades of ordinary life. 20 to 40 times a minute, for most of a lifetime. By one estimate, around 430 million hiccups. Doctors tried everything they had, nothing reached it. And then in 1990, with no warning and no explanation anyone could give, it simply stopped. He lived one more quiet year and then he died. Sit with what that means. A reflex that does nothing, that you never chose, that helps you not at all, can switch on and run for the rest of your life. Because it was never yours to command, it is older than command. So, why do you hiccup? Not because anything is wrong with you. You hiccup because a very long time ago, something that was almost you lived in the water. It gulped, and it shut a small flap, and that kept it alive. Then it crawled onto land and grew legs, and over an amount of time you cannot really feel, it became us. And it never let go of that one small move. It's still here, in your chest, in your babies, in your dogs, waiting. So the next time it happens mid-sentence for no reason at all, don't be annoyed by it. That's not a malfunction. That's 370 million years old. That's the tadpole, that's Tiktaalik, that's the fish that chose air. That's the water you climbed out of still moving inside you. That's you. So when your body interrupts you and takes the wheel for half a second, just listen. It's the oldest word your body still knows how to say, hic.